Sunday, but there's still lots to talk about. There's still lots and lots to talk about. And let's face it, if you don't want to listen to the Scottish mainstream media spout their usual nonsense and have complete... Let's take control of the narrative when
still
it comes
lots to talk
to
about.
Celtic.
Still
Lots and lots to talk about. And let's face it, if you don't want to listen to the Scottish mainstream media spout their usual nonsense and have
just
complete...
listen to that, just make sure that there isn't any feedback, which there isn't. And let's take that down. And in fact, I need to put that back on because we're going to be listening to Brendan Rodgers. I want to listen to Brendan Rodgers and... let's take that down. And in fact, I need to put that back on because we're going to be listening to Brendan Rodgers.
Right.
I want to listen to Evening Baz. Now let's
Brendan
get into
Rodgers.
the truth first of all. Jason was first in, Hammer and Baz. Liz Donnelly was in, and then JT Boy 67. Marydoll 1888 was in the house. Evening Baz, Brendan Rodgers.
Happy Days,
I want to listen to Evening Baz. Now let's get into the truth first of all. Jason was first in, Hammer and Baz. Liz Donnelly was in, and then JT Boy 67. Desmond Donnelly, Marydoll 1888. Happy was in the house. Happy birthday, Henry. I want to listen to Evening Baz. Now let's get into the
we have Caesar.
We have Caesar, the one and legendary Caesar. Desmond Donnelly, Marydoll, 1888. Happy Celtic. Johnny was in the house. Happy birthday, Henry. I want to listen to Evening Baz. Now let's get into the
we have Caesar.
Heel,
we have Caesar, the one and legendary Caesar.
Desmond Donnelly, Marydoll,
stand up, you black and
Celtic. Johnny was in the house.
Happy birthday, Henry.
Evening Baz. Let's get into
we have Caesar.
Heel,
we have Caesar, the one and legendary Caesar.
Desmond Donnelly, Marydoll,
stand up, you black and Celtic.
Johnny was in the house. Evening Baz. Let's get into
we have Caesar.
Heel,
we have Caesar, the one and legendary Caesar.
Right, let's get into
stand up, you black and Celtic.
Johnny was in the house. Evening Baz. Let's get into
what is going on? What the fuck? That's why I need to put headphones in. What the fuck was that racket in the background? What the fuck was that? What the fuck was that? Anyway, Jesus, holy shit. Right. Boyd has hacked it, yeah. That was after I said, has anybody seen Chris Boyd? What the hell? Anyway. Chris Boyd. And, right. What I want to do... Holy shit. What I want to do is I want to listen to Brendan and Chris Boyd. Do I want to listen to Chris Boyd? And, right. What I want to do... Holy shit. What I want to do is I want to listen to Brendan. Let's listen to Chris Boyd. Brendan had to say today. Let's get this under control because that was absolutely... And, right. Bonker.
What I want to do... Holy shit. What I want to do is I want to listen to Brendan. Let's listen to Chris Boyd. Brendan had to say today. Let's get this under control because that was absolutely... And, right.
Bonkers.
What I want to do... Holy shit. What I want to do is I want to listen to Brendan.
Desire and energy.
Chris Boyd. Brendan had to say today. Let's get this under control.
Absolutely incredible.
And, right.
Bonkers. It's a real force.
What I want to do... Holy shit.
The game, so
what I want to do is I want to listen to Brendan.
Performance, energy, really
Chris
good.
Boyd. Brendan had to say today. Let's get this under control. And,
results have obviously been good anyway so far this season, but what can a result like that, a performance like that, the occasion with the supporters, what can that do for the team going forward?
Well, I think
hopefully that's the audio sorted out, because let's see if we can start again. Because even I'm sitting going, what the... I need a drink after that. I've not even had a drink tonight. Jesus God. And it is only Aquarius. Right. I love this channel. I absolutely love this channel. Oh my God. Probably just lost umpteen subscribers, but don't care. Right, let's see if we can do this once more. And let's go back to the beginning of the audio, and let's see if we can listen to Brendan with no gremlins and no acid tripping. It's funny because we were sitting talking about taking acid 20 years ago at the pub earlier on, and it's like, who said your phone doesn't listen to you? Anyway, let's listen to Brendan Rodgers with the interview this afternoon.
Brendan, you've had a bit of time to reflect on Wednesday night. How do you look back on just the occasion as a whole, what you got from your players as well?
Well, I think firstly the performance. It was an outstanding team performance. Everything that I'd want, a team full of desire and energy, and then the energy from the stadium was absolutely incredible. So that combination is it's a real force, and we've seen that at the game. So yeah, outstanding performance, really good. Everything I'd want in my team, and yeah. Only thing missing was a couple more goals.
That's interesting.
Been good anyway so far this season, but
it's interesting that Brendan says that all he was missing from the performance the other night was a couple of more goals. We won 5-1 in Europe, but Brendan, and I said this on the night. I said Brendan will nitpick when he has time to sit down and watch the video back, right? Watch the game back. Brendan and the backroom staff, and I said it on the night, Brendan will nitpick at certain aspects of the game, and he would have expected us to score more goals. And it's interesting that he's mentioned that this afternoon.
What can a result like that, a performance like that, the occasion with the supporters, what can that do for the team going forward?
Well, I think it obviously can give another layer of confidence. I think so. We like, as you say, we've started performance-wise really, really well. The intent in our game, so everything on that front domestically has been really good. But you take it into the Champions League, and to do it at that level is also particularly pleasing, because no matter what is said, every team that plays in the Champions League is there believing that they are a big team, and there are obviously clearly some more prestigious clubs than others because of their history, but every club that goes into that competition has done well and they're a champion or a very good team in their own right. So when you're playing that you've got to perform. So for us to play to that level with Definitely. That pressure was something that didn't surprise me, but it was great to see, because we coped with pressure last year. It's one thing that one of the great learnings I've had working with this group of players, that when I've asked them and we've been under pressure, we've dealt with that really well. So
did we really cope with the pressure last season? It's interesting that Brendan Rodgers says that we coped with the pressure last season. We coped going down to 10 men at points, but we didn't really cope with the pressure of the Champions League and the up in our game, did we? So I'm going to take a bit. Yeah, I don't think that we did cope. Tell me in the comments section, do you really think that we coped with the pressure last season in the Champions League? Because I don't think so. I don't think that we did at all. I don't think that we coped with the pressure in the Champions League at all last season. Zedhead said nothing better than a team that thinks they performed to the point that flaws and slams their feet to the ground. Good management, that. Yes. But Brendan Rodgers saying that he thought that we coped okay with the pressure last season. I don't think that we really did. I think that we were... Brendan Rodgers said himself last season, you look at the inexperience of the players. Look at the inexperience of some of these younger players, these project players. And this season that he doesn't have these younger project players. He has younger players that have vast experience and that are better. And maybe that's why it's made him think that. I don't know. Let's listen to what else he had to say.
Well, that's continued to get into the game the other night, and it was just I just felt a real great occasion. I said before the game that I felt really ready going into this competition this year, more so than any other time, and you can see that in the team and how they played.
How much can it help the development of maybe some of the players that haven't played at Champions League level before to experience that and have that belief that they can go out and play that type of football and get a big result?
Yeah, but I think those guys that are sampling it for the first time, we've got new players coming into here. They know they're coming into a style of play that takes a little bit of time to get used to, purely because of the speed of it and the intricacy of it. So that takes a little bit of time. But they're coming into a winning mentality, and that'll hopefully drive them on and push them on to perform here. So that, and getting a sample of that, and that feeling the other night was really special for those guys, and even guys like Casper who've seen a lot in football. It was just taken aback by the whole experience.
I wonder if he's talking about Arne Engels and Austin Trusty at that point. Arne Engels was brought in with a fantastic transfer fee to perform at the highest level, and he will have experienced nothing like that in the Champions League. And I think that Brendan Rodgers was maybe saying, look, these guys have got more to give. And I said this morning at the end of the video, I think that Brendan Rodgers and this team has another gear to go up. I think that we're performing absolutely fantastic just now, but I do think that even Brendan believes that he can take this squad of players. Tell me in the comments. In fact, we'll do a poll about it. Let's do a poll about it. First of all, poll. Let's do the poll. Can take this. There we go. There is the poll for this evening. And then Zedhead says, personally, I think that he's trying to build the narrative for Team Talks and may necessarily leave it truly himself. Interesting one. I'm going to jump back into the comments in a second, but I want to get through the full Brendan Rodgers interview because I think that he is taking control of the narrative, and it was interesting that he said that.
Application and attitude you got from your players, is it just about rolling that over into Sunday's match?
Well, I think we've seen that's something that we had before it. It's not just this happened on the other night. We've had it before. It's just nice when you could just keep that going. Now that is always the challenge of football, consistency. But I've seen nothing other than a real good application and desire, and our drive is to keep that going. And this competition is very, very important to me. It was the first one I won as a Celtic manager, so it means everything to me. And we will be going all out Sunday to get to the semi-final.
Have you spoken?
Do you think that Brendan Rodgers has a little bit of, I should have put my own force onto the team at the beginning of last season? I mean, he's obviously got regrets about last season, the fact that we didn't win the treble. He's got obviously regrets that, but then again, when you listen to the likes of Joe Hart talking during the week, and Joe Hart saying that he was surprised that Brendan didn't put his own style on the team until well after the Christmas period, and he thought, do you know, when is Brendan actually going to change the way we play? And you've got to remember that Brendan Rodgers was getting a lot of criticism the first half of the season last year for the side-to-side boring Brendan ball pish, but It's came to light that it wasn't actually Brendan's style of football. He was still playing Ange ball, which I think is interesting, and it bodes well for the future, if you ask me personally.
And to John McGlen, since the draw was made, I know the two of you used to work together, of course, are close.
A long time ago. A whole load of time for John. No, we've exchanged messages and stuff, and I'm really looking forward to seeing him because I haven't seen him since obviously I left here the first time, but we've always been in contact and spoke a lot on the phone on various things.
You've got to remember that John McGlen at one point did the under-18 team at Celtic.
But I'm really proud of him and what he's done in his career since he's got that opportunity again. What he did at Wraith, what he's now doing at Falkirk, he's done absolutely brilliant. So I'm really looking forward to seeing him. He's a really good guy.
We spoke with John on Tuesday, and he described you, when he spoke to him, as a genius. He said, of all the coaches he's worked with, you're the one that took him to that next level. What does it mean to you to get that kind of praise from a peer like that?
Well, the first thing I would say is don't use that word. Right? That is when that gets said, that's when everyone chases you even more.
Yeah, and that's when it all goes fucking tits up.
That.
Yeah, right. Brendan's right. I don't use that crazy word that he's a genius. He's the tactical genius, because it's at points like that everybody comes after you, and then that can be the downfall of some managers. When that's, I mean, look at Jose Mourinho. He called himself the special one for years, and then once fucking everyone found out that it wasn't so special, his career kind of went into fucking, well, it is what it is just now, isn't it?
Right. He was secondly, no, listen. When I came into here, we brought in a structure and a way of working, and a mentality that he was a part of. He's seen it firsthand. He was in it, and he knows how I work and the levels that I go to. So, but no, John always went the extra mile for me. He knew there was a big demand for the job that he had here and what he wanted, and he was a real team player. So, but no, I'm more comfortable talking about him and his achievements. He's done fantastic, and I'm just delighted for him. And yeah, and he'll have a great season, but not at the weekend.
Are you at all surprised that he's not been linked with more Premiership jobs, given that's, I think, 43 league games unbeaten he's gone so far?
Yeah, it does surprise me. I think that sometimes what can happen is that experience gets overlooked, because there's maybe a trend for a younger manager to come in with fresh ideas and new ideas or whatever else is. But I still think you can be really experienced and have a young mind, and that young mind with the experience can really take clubs forward. So, but he may well have done. I'm not sure whether he's declared that or not, but he may well have done and just been happy where he is. But there's absolutely no doubt what he's produced in the 2 jobs since he left here has been absolutely brilliant. The style of football, the game he looks to play, it's very, very impressive. So that opportunity will, if it hasn't, then I'm pretty sure that would come for him, because like I said, if you look at Gasparini, 66 years of age, still young mind,
yes,
fresh,
yep,
and really driving on the vision of his club there. So I think that as long as you have that young mind but fresh and experienced, then that can really help any club. And John is one of those guys that get wonderful enthusiasm for the game, a really authentic guy who can take teams forward, and without any disrespect to Wraith and to Falkirk, then he can certainly do that at a higher level.
And he can, and there was a comment today that whilst we are favourites for the game at the weekend, and whilst we are in a fantastic position just now, it wasn't so well. It was a long time ago, wasn't it? And the whole Clyde scenario. It was a long time ago, and I think that the team has moved on different days since Clyde. And I think that the difference between the team now and the team that got put out the cup by Clyde many years ago is more than likely the fact that this is a team of individuals that play as a team. I think when you look at the team back that played Clyde, we put an awful lot of pressure on one player that came into Celtic at that time, and I think that we expected a bit more than what we got from him. So, with no disrespect to the team that played against Clyde all these years ago, I think that this team is in a slightly bit better place mentally.
you know from your previous time here what great Celtic teams look like. Does it feel like you're building something special just now with this squad?
Oh yeah, yep, I think so.
Yeah, I think it's just hopefully over time that's the case. I think what I'm starting to see now is the identity in the team that I wanted. That took a little bit of time, but we're clearly seeing
this season.
I'm seeing what I want to see, which is good, and now it's just building on that and building a really successful team. As I said, our job here at Celtic is to honour and protect the great history of this club and the winning mentality, but for the modern team to make our own history.
And that unbroken history of not going into liquidation, of paying our debts to the Bank of Scotland and not going bust and dying and not having to worry about paying the face painter and not worrying about a crumbling stadium. Yes, because we rebuilt our stadium when we knew it was needing rebuilt, and not worrying about having to go to Hampden and pay rent at Hampden and then wish your fans back to the stadium and say, we're back! We are back! It's great to be back, and we're in a great place. Anyway, let's get back to Brendan Rodgers.
So yeah, we're in a really good place, but still a long way for us to go.
And obviously you're on a strong run yourself at the minute. In your previous time here, you were 60 odd games unbeaten. Full cup.
69.
69, sorry. 60 odd, I couldn't remember that. Full cup obviously gone 43 unbeaten in the league. How powerful is that as a team that you've got that? Is that going to make a strong opponent even stronger when you're facing that as well?
Yeah, I think that when you go through that, it tells you everything about the mentality that they have. Obviously, been on an incredible run and going through and not losing a game in the league, and then bringing that up into the championship, doing so well. Of course, it tells you that they've got really good characters in there and guys that John trusts, and I know. Even though only recently they've had a few results that looked like it was going to be a draw or whatever, and then they end up winning. So that tells you everything about the mentality in the squad. And I know, like, so young Calvin Miller, who's there. Calvin was a brilliant young player for me here. Didn't quite kick on. He was keen to get out and play, but I really liked his game. He was quick. He was direct. He was left-sided. He's playing more off the right now and cutting inside. But when he was here, I really liked his qualities, and they got players that have on either side that are dangerous players up front. So so all in the mix, that gives them confidence. Clearly, winning games and the league title and then taking that through this season, clearly it gives you confidence.
You mentioned already just how much this competition means to you, and it was the only trophy that you weren't able to retain last season. Just how important is it that this season you make sure that the Scottish League Cup comes back here?
Well, we have work to do. We would have to win our next 3 games to do that. But this game now, it's about, I always think, get to Hampden, and then we assess it from there. And Hampden is a place I've always loved, with the pitch and the size of the pitch and everything else, and the support that we have there. So, but yeah, we've got a really important job at the weekend to get done, and that's clearly our objective. I said that at the beginning. Every domestic trophy we want to fight for, and that hasn't changed.
It hasn't changed at all. Hampden is a stadium that Brendan Rodgers loves to play at. And I asked in the poll, can Brendan Rodgers take this team to the next level? Paul Baird said, what is the next level? Is that winning the Champions League? And I think getting to the next level is at least last 16 of the Champions League. Qualifying for the Champions, getting through this group stage, this league stage, getting to the later round of, and that, I mean, getting 10 points. Let's be realistic. 10 to 12 points in the Champions League this season would be an improvement on what we've had in many, many seasons past. Let's not fucking lie, right? You can butter it up that we've got an easy draw. We had an easy draw last year, as far as I was concerned. But when you look at it, getting 12 points in the Champions League this year is a fucking massive improvement. And nobody could say any less. You can't say that it's fucking failure if you don't get 12 points. We've never managed to get 12 points. And don't say it's a new fucking format. That bullshit goes out the window when you're at this level. You've still got to play the teams that are in front of you. And even though that it is a new format, you're still playing at a fantastic level. And we've never managed to do it before. So why do we think that we've all of a sudden got the right to think that we're going to get at least 13 points, 12 points from this competition this year because of the teams that are in it? I think we need to be a bit more realistic. And listen, if we do get 12 points, that's a fucking massive improvement. Massive improvement. And anybody that says it's not a massive improvement is talking out their big, fat, hairy arse. That's what I'm saying. Anyway, let's get back to Brendan.
Just to go back to John McGlen, was the first time you managed against him Hearts Liverpool?
Yes.
What do you remember from those two games in particular?
That was the first time I'd met John. We'd obviously played in the game at Tynecastle, and then the return leg at Anfield in my first season. So that was when I first had come across him. Yeah, and listen, Hearts did really well on that in those games at the time. I knew it was always going to be a tough one at Tynecastle, which was a draw, and then the one at Anfield, they played with no fear, and I did well. So that was my first chance to come across him. And then of course when I came to here, I'd remembered him from that, and it was some nice stories then.
Any team news ahead of this weekend? Didn't see Alistair Johnson.
Team news.
What's the latest with him?
Yeah, we get a few players we niggle, so we'll have a wee look at that and assess that by end of play tomorrow. So we won't take any risk on any players, but we one or two. It was a second day recovery as well, so there was a group of the players out recovering, a group training hard, and then one or two inside, just make an extra recovery inside rather than out.
That's interesting that he splits the squad up into players that were okay to do a full set of training, players that were in second day recovery mode, and players that still needed that little bit time away from the pitch. And was that the case that they were getting a certain amount of treatment? Were they getting massages to make sure they're loosening the muscles back up? In modern day sports science, they will look at every permutation of every single player that comes off the pitch, and they'll look at every single muscle, and if they're needing that little bit extra time and they're needing a little bit of relaxation, a little bit of massaging to make sure that the muscles start getting back to normal before they go into the next game. It's interesting because back in the day, you were just thrown back into training 2 days later. It's fucking get up and get on with it. And it's nice to get a little insight into the modern day football player from Brendan there.
Just get back to all night for a minute. When you sat here at the start of February and you talked about trying to persuade the club to be a wee bit braver, do you think that was vindicated in the performance? I think specifically the likes of Engels, what he delivered despite the big price tag. I think that you could have proved a point to a certain extent.
No, I didn't. I didn't prove a point. I think it was just a case of the board done great. You know, they got the players in, and I said right the way through the window, I know what we wanted, and we all wanted the same thing. And by the end of the window, if we got the players that we could bring in that could help us, then it'd be a great achievement by all. And
it'll be a great achievement. Let's be honest, Brendan. Someone needs to ask Brendan. It doesn't matter, does it? We've got the players that we've got. But I wish one of these people that talking about players and bringing them in, the question should have been right at the end of the transfer window. Did you get your first choice players? That's the question that all the fans want to know. Did you get your first choice picks? Never mind what happened at the end of the window. Never mind bumming up the board and saying they've done fantastic. Never mind they say that, yeah, the squad's in a better place. But did you as a manager get the first choice picks that you wanted at the beginning of June? Just tell the truth, Brendan, because I think the support would completely back you even more than what they do now. But Brendan Rodgers doesn't want to rock the boat with the board, obviously. So he's obviously, and Paul Baird will love this moment because he's, as far as he's concerned, Brendan Rodgers is just a yes man for the board. But I think that question It's past its sell-by date. That question should have been asked a couple of weeks ago, but when it's still been brought up in this interview today that, look, the board done fantastically well. We knew what we wanted. We knew the type of player we wanted. Ask them direct. Did you get the first choice players that you wanted? Fucking does my head in. Anyway.
Eventually we did that. And now you see, when you have that calibre of player in, what it can do. You know, now 11 million or 1.5 million, I will always look to develop and improve a player, whatever price that is, or what's a young player coming through the academy. But looking at this particular group coming in last year and then having worked with them and then seeing how we want to progress, there was certain characteristics that I felt that we needed, and especially knowing in the back of the mind that there's a possibility of, say, Matt going. Not only are you losing goals, are you losing presence, you're losing a set piece expert, because he was very good on those. So knowing that Arna was that fit at all that profile, then that's why we were keen to get him in and help us. So I think the other night was a great vindication for everyone. I think for the board and the money they've spent, they will have enjoyed hopefully watching the team, the supporters, watching the game. They've seen the verve in the team, the dynamism, everything that they'd want, and attacking football and representing them, and then the players themselves on the pitch doing a brilliant job, fighting for their team, fighting for their club, and producing great football, which is the demand. So I think everyone was vindicated, really.
Everyone was vindicated, but Brendan, you just admitted that you knew that the person that was fantastic at taking your corners, and you knew everything that Matt O'Reilly brought to the team, and you knew the type of player that you wanted in, and fair enough that Arne Engels fitted that bill, and he is a fantastic player, but is he better? And this is the question that Celtic fans will ask after that comment that you just made, is Arne Engels better than Matt O'Reilly? He is a couple of years younger, he's got a couple of years progress to make, and only time will tell. Only time will tell. But going on the showing of the performance in the Champions League, I think that the fact that we brought in Matt O'Reilly for 1.5 million and sold him on for 26 up front, 30 million in total, what does that make Arne Engels worth in the future for Celtic?
Do you feel, unlike last season, where there's maybe a little bit of a dip later in these games, that now you're bringing on players and the level seems, the intensity seems to remain the same? Is that one of the key differences?
Yeah, I think it is. I think there's a big cost to how we play. There's a cost in energy, and when that starts to drop a little bit, that ability to be able to make changes, to bring in, to sustain that is very, very important. And I think we've seen that right to the very end. That was probably something that, last season maybe at times it did dip. We were having sort of periods, but it was maybe too inconsistent. But through to the end of the season and end of the pre-season, we were able to really grab a hold of everything in terms of that element of fitness and tenacity, and always you've been able to roll that out. So the subs are so important for us, like 5 subs now, and for us gives us every chance to keep that energy and that intensity, and I think we've seen that through over the course of this early part of the season in every game.
It's interesting that Brendan Rodgers spoke about the way that the squad developed over pre-season. You've got to remember, Brendan Rodgers did leave out a lot of players that were brought in last summer, and decided obviously early on that they weren't good enough and they were going to be shipped back out the door. So it's interesting. I would love to get into the mindset of Brendan, and at what point. I mean, I know it's all talking about last season and talking about past achievements and talking about players that have now moved on. But at what point did he realise last season, and especially the fact that we've just had Joe Hart talking about the fact that Brendan didn't really kick it in until till January to start stamping his own authority on the team, stamping his own way that he wanted the team to play. He had to bring it in very gently because of the mindset of the players. The mindset of the players had been 2 years under Ange Postecoglou and playing this certain style of football. And the fact that he waited until the January to start making slight adjustments from October all the way up to January. And you've got to remember, from the August to October, we were shocking under Brendan Rodgers, and people were saying it's fucking was the worst decision ever to bring Brendan back. But Brendan ultimately knew what he was doing, and it just took that little bit longer than what he maybe thought it would. But it proves how good a manager that we really have, I suppose.
I can't mind, Brendan, you have to rein some of them in sometimes. And I guess everybody who was involved and started on Wednesday wants to start again on Sunday, but you need to
yeah. And of course they will.
We need to turn this around a wee bit.
Yeah. I just think it's that's what I get paid for. I get paid. My job is a lot of thinking. It's a lot of making decisions and looking at different situations, and so yeah. But there's no point in having a strong squad if you're not going to use them. I think it was the beginning of the season. It was you're one game a week, so there's not quite the same demand. But we were coming into a run of 6 games in 23 days, and there was no way that I'd be using the same team in all of those games, because we want to keep that intensity and keep that mentality.
So there's changes this
and
weekend.
Obviously for as the season goes on, I need to have a strong squad. So it's great. Every player will always want to play, and they'll be disappointed when they don't. But they're paid to deliver, and these players are delivering, and that's what we want to continue.
They're paid to deliver. That is the best comeback by a Celtic manager ever. These players are paid to deliver, and that's what they're doing. And it doesn't matter whether they are in the team or out the team. The team as a whole was paid to deliver, and deliver, that's what they are doing. Absolutely brilliant statement by the manager.
Just on the intensity of playing, I don't know if you saw Joe Hart doing the analysis of the match the other night, but he was pointing out to the viewers the role that Daizen Maeda plays and his energy. How important is he in terms of setting the tone for that? Because you saw when he was tracking back, suddenly other players were going with him, and trying to hunt the ball down. How vital is he to that whole thing?
Yeah.
Right, you need to make sure that you forget the chat for just a minute, because this is probably the most important conversation that Brendan Rodgers has had about Daizen Maeda, and telling you how fantastic a player he is in his eyes. So listen to this.
Yeah, well, that's where the game starts. People, I've seen reports, obviously, in terms of the team doing very well and keeping clean sheets, and the goalkeeper in the back four, and it starts at the front.
It does.
And I think what we're seeing from all those guys at the top of the pitch, that when they see it, they're going, and then that's our trigger in reference to go. And I would doubt there's anyone better in world football than Daizen Maeda in that context. I watched an image of the game where, and this is towards the end of the game, and if you see the clip back in the game on a certain angle, he's making a recovery run into the sort of what would be the left back position, tracking their right back, thinking the ball's going to come across. But then the ball goes instead to the centre half, and he presses it and nicks it.
Yep.
And it's away.
Yep. We all remember it, and we know how important Daizen is. And I think that the manager pointing that out, and Joe Hart pointing out, and a lot of other people in the media pointing out the fact that Celtic, Peter Schmeichel himself called out the fact that the 3 Japanese boys play absolutely fantastic together. Joe Hart pointed out that Celtic were playing in a little diamond formation around players in the forward position to make sure that they were defending from attack. Now, in the comment section, what manager used to say that you need to defend from attack at Celtic in a bygone era?
So that level of, now even if you can do that, it's the will and desire to do it, which most players won't have. That he could have easily dropped that press. He didn't have to do that one, that was the one that was important. He went, realised it wasn't getting there, and he actually got to the centre half before the guy that should have got there. It's incredible. It's unbelievable pressing, but that's mentality. That is.
Given that level of intensity you're talking about from him, do you have to treat him any differently in terms of rest or anything like that?
No, we have to treat all the players and recover them and look at them in various ways. Obviously, I've got to be mindful as well. He's playing internationals and travelling around the world a lot of the time. So these are the things that's important for you. You know, I look, you know, we look towards. You're also preparing now for the end of the season, as well, making sure you're at times conserving energy in the right moments. But no, he's like every player. We always look closely at them and at what they're eating and how they're training and how they're working, and if we have to recover them or start them, or so all of that's all part of our programme.
Interesting. What they're eating and what they're not, and that's all part of the programme. That was Brendan Rodgers' interview this afternoon. That was Brendan's interview this afternoon. Let me just put this back.
Cover them or start them, or so all of that's all part of our programme.
Let me just get the volumes back down so we don't get any feedback. Let's jump into the comment section. What did you think about Brendan Rodgers' interview? I thought that it was interesting that he gives away some specific details about the way that the team has progressed, the way that the team recover, and the way that there's the modern day footballer is looked at. Because back in the day, and not so long ago, you could even look back to the Martin O'Neill era, that the players were all put back on the pitch 2 days after a game. If they played on the Sunday, they would get the Monday off and they'd be back in. Doesn't matter. If you've got a niggle, you get on with it. But the modern day football player, if they need a certain amount more time recovery, it was interesting that certain players get it. And it's all about looking after the health of the players, which is fantastic. Baz, you were clipped and put on our Twitter. It says, Carly, was it by the current buns? Carly, tag me in it. No, don't even bother. I don't give a fuck. I was tagged. Bag, you changed your time. You didn't know we were on. Peter, I know I changed the time. I said this morning that I'd probably change the time because I thought I was going to be going out this evening. Somebody just woke up. Anyway, if you keep going at this level, will be a special season, says Who Really Cares. Baz, you changed the time. Yeah, I didn't know that. Aye. Baz, you were clipped and put on a Twitter. I don't care. Do you know what I mean? Was it the Huns? Brilliant interview from Brendan. Could listen to him all day. I think Brendan Rodgers has definitely upped his level. And to the Huns that's listening, I've got something for you. Wait a minute. Clip that, you dirty orange bastards. Anyway, I don't care what the animals say. What the hell do we care? Hello? You're awake? Yeah, there we go. Somebody went out early this afternoon. Anyway, right, let's get back to it. A video you done about the Green Brigade stealing the hall. Yeah, I seen that. I seen that. I seen it on Facebook also, and I seen the person that posted it, Mr. Dara. But he was sent it from somebody else, so it wasn't him that took the original clip. But who cares? It means that you're doing something right when you're screenshotted like that and you're clipped and you're made into a meme to put viral. So just to get at the zombies that little bit more, it means that you're doing something right. Anyway, Brendan has the press in his back pockets. Yes, he does. Is there such thing as bad publicity, Baz? No, there isn't. There isn't at all. I've been in marketing since 1999. I've done marketing for my own business since 1999. And there's no such thing as bad press. No such thing at all. Dirty orange bastards. Exactly. Yep. Anton Rogan's left foot says, I wonder where they will leave it. Who cares? They are raging. The Huns are raging. Good. Because I'm sorry, I thought you were getting your arse out there, Baz, says Lord. Jesus Christ, Sarah, steady on. What the bus, man. There's enough of that. Anyway, the training gallery that Celtic put out this afternoon. And check out the training gallery images. I can't put them up because they're done for copyright. First up was Kasper Schmeichel. Kasper Schmeichel is loving his time at Celtic. I've never seen a goalkeeper smile so much in training and when he comes onto the pitch. I think Kasper Schmeichel was secretly living the dream. He must be thinking, I was at the end of my career. I'm 37-year-old. I'm thinking it's pipe and slippers time. And Kasper Schmeichel walks into training every day and he's got the most massive smile in the world. The next picture up was Nico Kuhn with the one and only Paulo Bernardo shaking hands with Brendan Rodgers and the three of them smiling. And the next picture up is Austin Trusty. Everybody in the club's getting trusty. Boom. Bring up the 1 to the 2 to the 3. And then old Stephen Welsh, young Stephen Welsh, who is a Celtic diehard. And then in comes Lewis Palma in the background with Yang and the big man himself, Rocky, and Nico Kuhn. And Nico Kuhn's got a smile that you can't wipe off either. And then Liam Scales coming in with the one and only Adam Ida. And Luke McCowan is he's another one that is just living the dream. I've never seen somebody that, since Alistair Johnston came into the club, I've never seen anybody that smiles as much as those players. And then there's Brendan looking a bit serious, thinking, the fuck do I drop for the game tomorrow? On Sunday, sorry. And then Arne Engels, who's completely in the zone during training. James Forrest is up next in the pictures with Odin the Warrior. Remember him? He can't even get on the bench just now. And then you've got Alex Valley, a player that I'm still wanting to see on the pitch, just to see how good this young guy from Barcelona is. And then another one with a couple of the defenders, and another with Jamesy Forrest, who's still got it. There's one thing though, James Forrest's legs, his thighs aren't as big as they used to be when he was a little bit younger. And then another picture with James Forrest smiling. Another one with the yellow vests on, which is Trusty Nobrovsky. Is that some kind of flat top that Lewis Palma's got on today? What's he done to his hair? It's like a flat top, like Top Gun. The fuck is wrong with that lad? And then Luke McCowan, and another one. Is that Lewis? What is going on with Lewis Palma's hair? Yeah, he's to stick off Instagram. Nico Kuhn, and then Brendan Rodgers, and the one and only Celtic number 2 that has been through so many managers. And you've got to remember, he's pretty much been here since he done his knee in a game for Scotland, their old defender. He's been in the Celtic ranks since then. There's a poll for you, right? There's a poll for you. I'm going to drop the poll. I'm missing some of the comments. Apologies for missing. Hi. How can I help you? Yeah, put that down. What? The window's closed. The window's closed. Anyway, I'm going to do a new poll. The window's closed. That's the mosquito that's sitting. Anyway, can Brendan Rodgers take this to the next level? Go and get him office. I'm now getting the finger at me. Go fuck yourself. Bye, darling. Can Brendan Rodgers take this team to the next level? 98% say yes, 2% say no. Right, here is a question for you. Let me just get this right. This might split opinion. This question. This might split opinion. Is this might split opinion, this one. I wish there was more people on this. Right, here is the question. Is John Kennedy the modern day Tommy Burns? Yes or no? Is John Kennedy the modern day Tommy Burns? He's been here, he's been at Celtic since he was a kid. Let's not forget this. John Kennedy has been at Celtic since he came through the academy. John Kennedy got himself into the first team. He was the captain. He was the captain of the B team at the time. He was better than Stephen McManus. You have to remember, because Stephen McManus, remember, was captain of Celtic one time. He was better than Stephen McManus at the time, but injury paid to his career. Paid to his career. So is John Kennedy, seriously, is John Kennedy the modern day Tommy Burns? And I know it's a different era, and I know you're going to say Tommy Burns did it at Celtic, Tommy Burns won at Celtic, Tommy Burns bled Celtic, but so does John Kennedy. So does John Kennedy. He's had the chance to go to Leicester. He had the chance to go to Spurs with Ange Postecoglou. He had the chance to take the Aberdeen job. He had the chance to take the Hibernian job in the past. He's been named with those jobs in the past. Is he a modern day? Is he the modern day Tommy Burns? You've all got your own opinions, but tell me them in the comments. And he's been a fantastic servant to the club. Fantastic. He's been given umpteen opportunities for a pay rise, to play in bigger leagues, to manage on his own accord. Twice. He was named with the Aberdeen job once, and he was named with the Hibs job once. He's had plenty of opportunities to be able to leave Celtic and further his career. Does it put him up there with Tommy Burns? Maybe not in the eyes of many fans, but as a servant to the club, he's probably been, he has to have been at Celtic just as long nearly as what Tommy Burns was, considering the time that Tommy Burns left Celtic and went to Kilmarnock. Tommy Burns left Celtic, remember, and went to manage at Kilmarnock. John Kennedy has never left Celtic. So that is why I'm asking, is John Kennedy a modern day Tommy Burns? And this has split the fans. This is why I love this channel, because we ask questions that splits the fans. We ask questions that gets people thinking about ultimate greats. And Tommy Burns was an ultimate great. Tommy Burns was up there with his legend material, his legendary material for what he done for Celtic. John Kennedy has never managed Celtic. Well, he has on a few occasions when we've sacked managers, and he didn't do too great, let's be honest. But as a servant for the club, is he the modern day Tommy Burns? That's the question. And 49 votes so far, and we've got 43% say yes, and 57% say no. Right, let's jump into the comment section and say what you are all saying. Tamak says no. Lorna Gallagher is laughing at the missus. Anyway, move on for that. Cameron Carter Vickers can't hear the ball. Who cares? Tamak says no. Baz, rest Calmac, put Rio, Bernardo, Engels, McCowan. That's not what I'm really asking. Let's see. Trust NCCV. John Kennedy has been outstanding for Celtic, says Carly. No, Tommy Burns was different breed, but as close as you would get. That means he's a modern day Tommy Burns then. You can't say no and you say that as close as you would get. The question is John Kennedy a modern day Tommy Burns? Is he a modern day Tommy Burns? I'm not comparing him to the style of management. I'm not comparing him to what he did for Celtic. I'm comparing him to the longevity the longevity of their Celtic careers. And Tommy Burns had a fantastic career as a Celtic player. John Kennedy's career was cut short. He was then put into training the youth team. The under 16s, under 15s, under 18s. He went on to the B team, and he's been in and around the first team for a long time. He has to be up there as a modern day Tommy Burns. Now, I'm not saying he's the exact same as Tommy Burns. I am not saying that whatsoever. The question is he a modern day Tommy Burns? That is the question, and vote on that. He loves and adores the club like Tommy, but Tommy was a god. He was a god, but John Kennedy's 20 years younger than him. In 20 years' time, if John Kennedy's still in and around the club then, will you then class him as a legend? Will you then class him as a modern day Tommy Burns? Will it take 20 years more service to be given to Celtic for him then to be classed as, you know what, fucking John Kennedy's actually alright because he's stuck with us when he's had the opportunities to leave? Maybe that's what it's going to take. I don't know. You tell me. Sadly, it said no because of the lack of playing career, said Zhead. Baz, no, and no again, says Tamak. Who really cares, says, would John have stayed if he never got injured? But that's... Would Tommy Burns... You can't answer that. You can't answer that question. No chance. Tommy Burns all the way, says Paul Baird. Got to give wee Gavin Strachan plaudits as well. Yeah, but Gavin Strachan isn't Celtic through and through. Let's. I'm not talking about Gavin Strachan and what he does for the club. I'm talking about the fact that John Kennedy has been at Celtic since he was a kid. He's been at Celtic longer than James Forrest. He's been at Celtic longer than Callum McGregor, right? Let's put this into perspective. You're thinking about Tommy Burns as a man, Tommy Burns as a manager. Currently, John Kennedy has to be one of the most long-standing employees at Celtic after Peter fucking Lawwell. There you go. Peter Lawwell's been here since the 1990s, and he's been taken away from Celtic since the 1990s. Look how long John Kennedy has been on the Celtic payroll. That's all I'm asking you to compare with. And it's interesting because it's getting really close with the votes now. 48% say yes, 52% say no. Send this to your mates. Send the video to your mates and tell everybody to get online and vote for this. Who really cares says, would John have stayed if he'd never got injured? Well, we can't answer that one. Not a chance, says Paul Bears. Got to give Gavin Strachan a chance. We've been that. Bad injury playing for Scotland put an end to a good career. It did. And what kind of career? You've got to remember, he was the Paulo Bernardo of our youth team. He was the captain of the youth team. He was better than Stephen McManus. And Stephen McManus went on to have a not bad career for Celtic. That's the reality of the conversation. Stephen McManus had a better career and a longer career, playing career, but John Kennedy was the better player. John Kennedy was the better player, and he would have went on to be Celtic captain. Been great servant and a great trainer, says George. He's always been connected to the club and blocked out the noise. He has that. The best number 2 in Scotland. Even 3 in a row, Strachan's still had some Celtic fans not entirely behind him. Exactly. It's a theoretical question. Burns would have loved John Kennedy. He would have. He fucking would have. John, could you imagine if Tommy Burns was still alive today? Tommy Burns would be putting his arm around John Kennedy and saying, "Do you know what? You could almost be my son. You could almost be my son." And it is that. Lorna Gallagher says that she agrees. Barca? What are you talking about, Barca? More cups than the kitchen cupboard. John Kennedy is always bridesmaid, never the bride. He needs to leave and establish himself as a boss. Bruni is in front of him for the future Celtic job, says Kaiser. Sometimes in your career, it's better being second best and always being second best than being a one-off, Kaiser. if you look at the great Murdo McLeod came in to be number 2 at Celtic, but he was only number 2 at Celtic for 1 year. And that's something that the likes of Murdo McLeod will always look at. They had that one chance. The fact that he sees himself as a loyal servant to Celtic, a lot of people in business would rather be second best for 20 years than first for 1 year. Take your choice. And that's the stark reality. And I know people in business that are more than happy to be in second best in business in their category for 20 years, but they have people that come and go and they're number 1 for 1 year. Would you rather be number 1 for 1 year, or would you rather be second best for 20? There's a thought. I know that I'm happy being this channel for 14 years. So just put it that way. I know that I'm happy that this channel has been on the go for 14 years and it's not going to go anywhere. It's probably still going to be here in 14 years' time, and if not longer. Whilst there's people that have Celtic channels just to make sure that they are seen in media and they get a media job. And they may leave. They may not. But I know that I'm happy knowing that this channel has been in the position that it's been in for 14 years and it won't go away. Could I be the biggest Celtic channel for 1 year? Would I enjoy that? And then go into mediocre and disappear and get a media job? No, I fucking wouldn't. Fuck that. I'd rather be going along the way that I want to go and always having this as my number 1 priority. And I think that's what John Kennedy brings to Celtic. Anyway, thanks for your comment, Kaiser. John Kennedy will have to manage a team to even be considered. Why will he have to manage a team to even be considered? Who really cares? When I've just spoke about a Celtic number 2 that never really went on to do anything else in football. Do you know what I mean? So, anyway, without a doubt, John Kennedy must be commended for staying at Celtic when Ange wanted to take him, but no. No way does he challenge Tommy, says Tarmac. That's interesting. John will never be the same legend as Tommy, says Paul Baird. Great work, Baz. Keep it up, mate. Soundex. It's all about just putting out questions there and putting out a different narrative and asking questions that gets conversation flowing. Because let's face it, if we're all the exact same and we all do the same thing, you're just copying each other. And it's fantastic when I see other YouTubers out there copying the same format that I've had for several years now. Celtic, a team like no other. Those who have left have always regretted. Those who stay, says Desmond Donnelly. Our great captain, our leader, our legend, the one and only Bruni. He said it on many occasions. There's been many players that have come to Celtic, and there have been many players that have left because they thought they were better than the Scottish League. They wanted to go on and get bigger wages, and they want to go on and play at bigger leagues. And within 6 months, they would send Bruni a WhatsApp and saying, Bruni, you were right. I fucking hate not being at Celtic now. I hate not winning. I hate not having the pressure of winning. John Kennedy's had that pressure of winning every single week for years. But some people still think that he's not as legendary as the great Tommy Burns. Anyway, it's all about asking the questions. He's on $500,000 a year. All right, Jesus. Hail, Baz. I think the rest half of the team for the Champions League. Rest half the team for the Champions League. The one thing that we don't know is the length of their contracts. Whose contracts? John took training for Ange. Exactly. Ange Postecoglou admitted it. That Ange turned up on a Friday and went, alright, how's it going? And then picked the team for the Saturday or the Sunday. He said that he had nothing to do with the training, the 2 years that he was at Celtic. He thought that John Kennedy was such an important cog in his wheel that he wanted to take him away from Celtic and take him down to Spurs. Just like Brendan Rodgers wanted to take him down to Leicester. That has to be saying something about the player. Anyway, can you be sure older fans will back Tommy? You can be sure that older fans will back Tommy. And that's all fine. But I'm sure that older fans will also appreciate how long John Kennedy's been at the club, Paul. Anyway, it's nice. It's nice to ask these questions. But it's funny, consistent and always a Celt. But enough about your channel is awesome too, said Zhead. Do you know what? I don't worry about other channels now because there's that many Celtic channels out there that I know that my channel is taking a bit of a dip. I know the other channels might be on a high just now, but it's all about longevity. It is all about longevity, and I'm here for the long run. I won't be going anywhere, ever. Celtic Mad says, honestly, I thought when Ange left, Kyogo and Hatate would go with him, but they haven't. You got to remember that when Brendan Rodgers came into the club, and we brought in 9 players, Brendan Rodgers had to talk a lot of players out leaving the club. There was a lot of players wanted to leave that summer. Brendan Rodgers has admitted that. He had to talk a lot of players into staying at Celtic. And I wonder who those players are. One of them was obviously the one and only Matt O'Reilly. We talked him into staying, and what a fantastic turnaround that was, because if Matt O'Reilly left that summer, there's no way we would be getting £30 million for him. We'd probably be lucky if we got £6 million for him. But Brendan Rodgers had to do a lot of work. Anyway, Anton Rogan's left foot, says Kennedy. Celtic Mad said, honestly, I thought we've done that one. Richard says, there was a just jumped. It says there was an increase in wages this year. I bet the coaches got paid. There was an increase in wages this year. I bet the coaches got paid. No, Richard, if you look back at the beginning of last season, how many? There was Kyogo, there was Rio Hatate, there was Daizen, all put on longer contracts and increased wages. So you can probably bet that that's where the majority of the wages went. People forget about that. People forget that when just after the window closed last season, the 3 Japanese players were put on longer contracts to protect their assets. Celtic. Hank says, Paul, sorry, this old guy disagrees. Who really cares says, I'd be stunned if John Kennedy left. Exactly, a lot of people. Tommy Burns says, damn it. Kaiser says, in all honesty, Baz, a great question. By the way, Tommy Burns, his birthplace is in modern Celtic, as John is a fantastic servant to Celtic. He bleeds green blood and works tirelessly. He must have learned a lot. And he must have, because you've got to remember, John Kennedy was at Celtic when Tommy Burns was here. John Kennedy was at Celtic when Tommy Burns was at Celtic. He must have learnt a lot from Tommy Burns. He was at Celtic. He came through the system at Celtic when Tommy Burns was number 2 to the one and only Gordon Strachan. Anyway, this is why I love this channel, because it gets debate going in the comment section. It doesn't have the comment section just talking about absolute nonsense. And the votes, there's 169 people on, but there's only been 92 votes. Is John Kennedy a modern day Tommy Burns? And it's kind of split the fan base. The small number of fans that have voted, it's 47% say yes, 53% say no. Hit the thumbs up, says Lorna. Kennedy is a future Celtic manager. I don't think he is. I don't think that John Kennedy will ever be a Celtic manager. And I've said that before. When you've got, look at Murdo McLeod. Murdo McLeod came into Celtic as a number 2 to the one and only Wim Jansen. Why wasn't Murdo McLeod then given the chance to be Celtic manager? Sometimes it's better, and the Celtic hierarchy know what John Kennedy brings to the table. Let's be honest. And that's why they put it in Ange's contract that he couldn't take any of the backroom staff with him. When Ange signed his contract, it was in the contract that he couldn't take any of the backroom staff with him, even though he tried to steal Kennedy at the last minute. When you look at it, what he brings to the stability of the backroom staff, the fact that Brendan Rodgers hasn't brought any really of his own people in this time. He's already had a backroom staff that knows Celtic, know the way that it works, know the way that the transfer model works, know the way that they want to play, and can listen to what Brendan Rodgers wants? Anyway, I think it's a fantastic question to ask, and it's still splitting the fans. 47% say yes, 53% say no, which is interesting. Baz, someone once says that Bruni is ahead of John Kennedy for Celtic manager's job. What has Bruni done to get the manager's job or as a coach? What facts back this up? Says Big Rab C. Rig Rab B. I keep wanting to call you Rab C. Nisbet. The fuck, you need to change your name, man. Big Rab B Niz. Nothing. Bruni's done nothing to get the Celtic manager's job. He's done nothing in the game. And people will say, look, you were there the day that Neil Lennon was made Celtic manager. Neil Lennon had no managerial experience when he was made Celtic manager. So why shouldn't Bruni be made Celtic manager? Well, I think that Bruni has gone down a different route to his management career. And I think that Bruni is a bit like Paul Lambert. Now, Bruni will never come out and say in public, I do not want the Celtic job, just in case. But Paul Lambert has. Why is Paul Lambert not wanted to be the Celtic manager? Paul Lambert's won the Champions League. Paul Lambert was in the team that got to Seville. Is that not a better career than Scott Brown? I'm just asking. Maybe that's a question that we should ask in the poll. Tell me in the comment section. Has Paul? Of course, you can't fucking say no. Paul Lambert won the Champions League. Paul Lambert went to Seville with Celtic. Paul Lambert stopped 9 in a row with the old fucking zombies before they died. Scott Brown achieved what he did in a different era altogether. So why is Scott Brown being considered in fans' eyes as Celtic management potential, but Paul Lambert hasn't? Because Paul Lambert hasn't been a good manager in the teams that he's well, neither has Scott Brown. Scott Brown was sacked for his first job. So anyway, it's all questions that need to be asked. Has anyone seen a clip of the Baldy calling Rangers players zombies? No. Has anyone seen a clip of a Baldy calling Rangers players zombies? No, it might have been me. Tommy says, where is it? I've got to see it. Brownie playing Celtic. Bruni playing the Celtic way, maybe. Is he playing the Bruni? Bruni's doing okay at Ayr United. Well, maybe that's his level. Don't know. Anyway, just seen it, and the players are running about like zombies. Kaiser says Bruni is coached being direct firing line for the sack, unlike Kennedy, who's never operated under full pressure, the top spot. Kennedy's managed Celtic when people have been sacked before. He stood up and been manager at Celtic. Go check the books. Check the Celtic managers. He's been manager at Celtic when people have been sacked. Top spot. It's just your opinion. Don't need facts and figures. Lol. Like Kennedy, who's not operated under the full pressure of the top spot, but he has. Kaiser, you're forgetting that he's been Celtic manager, and he didn't do fantastically great as Celtic manager. That's not going to say that Scott Brown's going to do fantastically great. Anyway, Bruni knows that he could let us down, like Larson and so many. Tierney bluntly admitting that he probably can't come back, and so that's what there is to love. Kaiser stepped in when Lennon took all the crap in that season. He did. It's on the news, Baz, says Hank. On the news? Standing manager was never at risk of the sack, says Kaiser. I think there's been many... That's not true. Because there's been many standing managers in the modern game that have been sacked. And didn't Aberdeen do it? So there's many standing managers that have been sacked, that have been in the back room, and they're like, oh my God, this guy's even worse. This guy's worse than what we just sacked. And they've been sacked fucking about 6 weeks later. So I think, good man, Baz, he was. Paradise Found says, Paul Lambert didn't win the Champions League as a manager. He won it as a player. We're not talking about as manager. He won it as a player. He won the Champions League as a player. Scott Brown didn't. Paul Lambert went to Seville with Celtic as a player. Scott Brown never got to those heights. but suddenly Scott Brown's a better prospect as manager. Interesting. Would Brendan have kept him? He thought John was no good. If he thought John was no good, Michael, he thought John was good the first time he was here. And when he went to Leicester, he wanted to take John Kennedy and the backroom staff and the medical team and everyone with him then, back in 2019. So that's why he's so happy. So yeah, it's interesting. It's interesting just to get that level of conversation going tonight. So anyway, the question was, is John Kennedy a modern day Tommy Burns? 46% say yes and 54% say no. And let's end the poll there. I've always had respect for Neil Lennon. Even though, well, there's one poll for you. Right, Neil Lennon, when all the talk just now is about the Commonwealth Games. When Neil Lennon was in charge of manager the first time round, the Commonwealth Games was getting played, was getting done at Hampden. Hampden Park was never going to be available for 2 cup finals. The 2 cup finals were going to be at Celtic Park. Neil Lennon could not motivate his team that season to get to 2 cup finals at Celtic Park. I'm just saying. That's facts. That's historical facts. The 2 cup finals were going to be played at Celtic Park. We know what happened. And Neil Lennon could not motivate the team. He was sacked at the end of that year. He was sacked at the end of the year, and rightly so as far as I'm concerned. Because any manager that could not get their team and motivate their team to play a home game, cup final in your home ground, had to go as far as I'm concerned. Anyway, Who Really Cares says, it's time a new manager comes in, John Kennedy's job is on the line if the new guy wants his own team. Exactly, every time, but it doesn't happen. It doesn't happen because John Kennedy and the backroom staff that we have are that good. That's that. Anyway, Michael Ross says, Baz Kennedy is not the presence of the charisma of Tommy Burns. I'm not talking about that. That's nothing. That's not even been spoke about. That's not even been spoke about. We said that at the beginning of this conversation. We're talking about the fact is he a modern day Tommy Burns? In the longevity, in the fact that John Kennedy's been at Celtic since he was a kid. He's never left Celtic. He's been at Celtic since he was in the youth team. He was the youth team captain. He was better than McManus, and that's all we're talking about. Anyway, Baz, that comment by Skeletor is sick. Stick on for your meltdown video. I'll need to check it out. Anyway, we've been on for 1 hour and 17 minutes. That's more than enough for this late edition of the show. There's only been just over 1,200 people on. There's 188 on live as it is. Kennedy must be good, otherwise different managers will never kept him. Can he sing Sinatra? He can't sing Sinatra, but I tell you one thing, he can sing the rebel songs. He can sing Come On You Black and Tans. So there you go, guys, and that's all that matters in my books. If you can turn up the rebs and get the rebs on, it's fine by me. Anyway, Baz, I met John Kennedy after the game. He stood outside Celtic Park for ages, signing autographs and getting his photo taken with the supporters, and he never refused anyone. Anyway, guys is now laughing. And on that note, I'm going to get a little drink before my throat goes completely. We're on 18,960 subscribers. We are trying to get to the big 19,000 before whenever. But we're trying to get 20,000 before the end of the year. Make sure you subscribe to the channel. And on that note, I'll see you on the next video. Have a fantastic evening. Celtic fans. Yes, you. I see you, not you. Right. Don't do that. What are you doing? Jesus Christ, man, that's wrong. What are you doing? Stop that. That's disgusting.